Off topic, we back. I got a sketchbook day. So today's vlog is going to be more about using a sketchbook and what that can lead to. And I'm going to share some ideas and some thoughts for some graphics I'm looking to create. But in looking for somewhere to start working on that, I pulled out an old sketchbook that, wow, did I buy it here? I may have. Ain't no way. Let's see. Oh, I bought it from Walmart, Gloucester, Virginia, in 2020. Pretty sure you can't see it, but if you can, I thought about doing this at one point, kind of just noting where all these sketchbooks came from and what when I started them. So this was when I had a artist residency in Gloucester. It was the Gloucester Artist in Residency in collaboration with the Arts on Main art gallery. So I had I think it was like a 10-day residency. This was during the pandemic, so it had adjusted. It could have stayed for a range of time. I think it was from like 1 week, like minimum, up to a month. And this was only like maybe like a 45-minute drive from where I was living in Norfolk. So I got the residency, the pandemic happened, and so we had to rethink what the residency program would look like. And so it offered a space to live, which is a really, really dope house on one of the donors. And she was like the president of the program, or the board of the program. She had a home on her property. It was like converted into a home. Super dope. Probably had like maybe four bedrooms. So it could have been 4 artists at the same time. And then it offered us a free studio space to work in, which was like a shed essentially. But it was outfitted with a few materials, but you bring your own, blah, blah, blah. So, and then you would exhibit artwork at the gallery during your residency. So I brought some artwork to be exhibited, and then I created artworks while I was there. And then you had to do some type of like community thing. So I did an interview with a community member, and then I made a painting of that community member as one of my like projects for the residency. And so I bought a sketchbook while I was out there because that was the closest thing, and I wanted to buy a few like things just to like eat and all that stuff. And I want to say I drove up, stayed the first night, realized I left one paint color at home that I wanted. So then I drove all the way back to Norfolk, then came back with my green paint and finished the residency. It was in July, so it was super hot, but I mean, you had like views. I was into running at that time, so I went on like a run, but maybe probably just about 3 miles, across, covering some of their lands. I had to run off the property. Just super dope experience, man. Reliving that. They had like a sculpture garden. Got to enjoy the sculpture garden and all things like that. So super cool program. And this is where I got the sketchbook. So some of the earliest sketches in here. This was a sketch from one of the sculptures that I actually ended up in one of the paintings that I did. And that was about it. Then I got like some logo stuff in here. So this sketchbook was kind of used to just like do anything. Took some notes, did a sketch for an idea. Actually, yeah, I did a series of sketches on that. This was 2020, so it was some trying times. There's some pretty like graphic imagery in here. Because like, of course, in the midst of like dealing with the pandemic, we're also dealing with police shootings and things like that. So there was a lot of like reflection on how I felt about stepping out of my door and how I might be seen or viewed. So I was just kind of like rolling with it, just like feeling the emotions, because in the midst of also like really made a painting out of this sketch, which I like the sketch better than the painting, but it is what it is. I think in dealing with the isolation that came with the pandemic, came a lot of like thoughts on how I felt. And then my thesis work also revolved around the same idea. So as more of that was happening, I had more like trauma. I was dealing with more issues of that. So anyway, this was my plant that I killed. Called it Piccolo. Piccolo's with us no more, but here in spirit. But anyway, let me get to what the meat of this is. So with my running reviews, I'm looking for, I was trying to think of ways to create cool graphics for my ratings. So as opposed to just doing a basic star, I wanted to create some graphics for each of the ratings. My ratings are based on different race distances, starting at a 5K, ending at an ultra marathon. And that might adjust. I don't think I've given any of the books an ultra marathon review yet. Maybe Da Vinci Code, but so my rating system might change. But right now it's 5K, 10K, 15K, half marathon, marathon, ultra marathon, because the number of stars don't really matter. But my idea was to create. I used one of a couple of videos, and I just had like a shoe graphic that I found online, and put whatever the race distance over top of it as the rating when I applied the rating to the video. Didn't really care for that, but it was just something to kind of get ideas going. But at the time I didn't have software to create designs, digital work or whatever. We got rid of Adobe, and I was having issues with Affinity on my computer, so I had to figure out how to get Affinity to work, and I finally did. So now I can get back to that. But I started there with just like this random shoe graphic, this vector of a shoe graphic, and then threw a number on it using InShot fonts. And now I'm back at a point where I want to add that part to my videos again, but with some intention. So I had thought recently that I should design each one as medals. At first I was just going to design each distance and just give it a nice graphic for like the 5K to 10K, and then I was like, oh well, medals are like things to achieve. It kind of relates to the star system, and or first place and second, second or third place. So I wanted to design them as medals, give them all different looks, and maybe they'll have to get some use later. So today was a day to kind of explore that, and there's a lot of that in this sketchbook where I was just like exploring different logos. So that's what I like a small sketchbook for, whether it's just making small study sketches just to get some creativity out because I'm inspired, or if I need to work on something like a logo, even like breaking down a design for something. So this was actually a design that for what was it? I think it was a sign holder, essentially, that my wife needed. So we built it out of PVC pipe, cut it all down, made all brought all the corners and angles and all that, and it was a fun project to do. Spray painted it, and it kind of lasted. The spray paint eventually started to like wear, because there wasn't like protective coating on it, and yeah, that was that. A couple of sketches in here from ideas for projects that I did complete, and then certain degrees of like semi-complete sketches. So I'm really into sketchbooks, so that's a whole other thing. So let's get to the good stuff. Right before that, actually, this was faces for painting that I will eventually paint. But for now, that's where it is. So ideas, boom, and as opposed to me sitting here, trying to draw it out for you, I'll just have it up here, and you can look as I look. So I started with the 5K. I did a sketch at the like top left. I think I wrote down all the different distances. Yeah. Did a real simple sketch. Up at the top, OTR standing for On the Run, 5K review. And I was just trying to get some like placement ideas of what I think I might want. And then I was like, well, if I'm gonna do like a circular design with the on the run and review, which is like the title of the videos, the brand itself really. I was like, I might as well just like commit to the circular movement. So got my roll of tape and trace that just to get a nice perfect circle, and then put the 5K in between, because I figured that could just be the place where the the distance kind of rests on that design. So the idea at first was each one of these would be different designs. One of the first ideas was that the like um, each design would get a bit more detail, just to like give it that much more credence. Um, so I went what I thought was simple, and I actually think I like that drawing better than the rest of them, maybe because it was larger too. Doesn't really reflect. Oh well, I tried to in trying to like reflect like reading as a part of the design. I made the like spine of the book, or the straight line on the K be the spine of the book, or the spine of a book. So I was like, well, I need to give it some depth so it actually looks like something. So I gave that depth and just connected the 5 and the K together in that regard. And I'm imagining this as like a what I call it, like an actual like metal, like whether it's brass or gold or whatever, but like an actual metal. Didn't put that much energy into the on the run review part, because that could that part can just be figured out with a nice font, maybe a little bit of editing on the font and just giving it the right curve. Yeah. So that was the first drawing. Then what is this? On the run logo. Oh, that came kind of after. So then I moved on to 10K, and I was like, oh, the one could be a book. And originally it was just, I also found that I needed to give that depth, but I didn't really have a relationship for like the 0 for the 10 or the K. Like I didn't know how to relate that to the book leaning. Like maybe the 0 could have been, I don't know. I just couldn't think of what. I mean, I made a circle, but I don't know what else it could represent. I have an idea of what those things could represent now, but in this case, I didn't. So maybe I need to revisit it now that I know this. I have this idea. We'll come back to that. And then the K was just going to be thrown on the side just so you know the distance. But I just drew that in. Moving down to the 15K, I thought at this point the distance is reaching like the middle point, or the review rating is reaching the middle point. So now we have an open book, just kind of a basic open book. No action or activity with the book. It's just open. Somebody's reading it. So I did that. Didn't really know what to do with the words or the numbers. Then at some point I thought, oh, I could put the 15 could be within the pages, and then throw the K in there. But I don't really like the K just sitting there. But it's there. And then on the run review, I could place somewhere around the book. Don't really care for this design, but it's there. Maybe I could. So as opposed to having the circle like I have on the tape, from the tape, like the perfect circle, and then the text inside of it, I just use the text to make the top half of the circle and the bottom half of the circle, or whatever portion of it. It won't be like half of it, but on the run curve over, review curving under, and they just reach, they touch more or less the edges of the book to make an implied circle, essentially. So I could do that with that. Then I think I just started to get like kind of lazy. I didn't know what to do. I think I just had this image in my head of like something different. So I drew half with kind of like a late ribbon effect at the edge. And then that turned into, oh, this is 4 letters. I could just turn that into the 2 pages of the book. So as opposed to, fitting the text inside of a more rectangular shape, just let the text be the shape of the book, almost like like the pages were cut out into the shape of the letters. So that's how I designed the half, and then I was like, well, marathon can just go up under it doing the same thing, and then I would put on the run somewhere. And again, I'm still just like, I'm having to remind myself that I'm just sketching at this point and not trying to like finalize the design, because this is a lot to cover. I could spend a lot of time just working on the 5K until I find a design that I like, and that's just for one of the ratings. So working on essentially 6 different designs to come up with something that feels cohesive, is legible at a small scale because people are looking on their phones. I just had to consider what this might And even just thinking about how this might actually appear on the videos, because I think it's important that I let people know what the scale is, especially on like the earlier versions of these videos. So as opposed to just having like, oh, this book is a half marathon, they might be like, well, where does that fit in the along the rating? Like, is that a 4 out of 5? Is that a 7 out of 10? Like, what is that? Where does that fit? So I need to show what my scale is, whether it's shown on the video, 5K, 10K, whatever. I need to do something. So I have been thinking about video ideas for that, where I just have to make a separate video for each of those, where it's like some type of like animation, to where if it's a 5K, it just stops on the 5K, but it shows all of them, or it just shows the one. Or if it's like a half marathon, then it shows 5K, 10K, 15K, and then stops at half marathon, but then it does some like special animation just to let you know that like this is we reached this far on the scale. And then marathon, I was like, all right, I need the book to have some action. So on that part, open book, flying, action, but didn't really have an idea for the rest of the design. Then at first I had drawn like the word full up at the top, and then marathon somewhere at the bottom. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, the marathon is the full race. And then you have a half marathon and ultra marathon. Ultra marathon being anything over 26.2. There's no specified distance for an ultra marathon. So I was like, I don't need to write that it's full. Like, that's redundant. So I just need marathon. And then I put on the run review inside of one of the pages, which I like that idea of like incorporating the pages with text, obviously. But one thing I didn't do was I didn't like sit and think about the like main themes and how they need to play into the design. So what those main themes are is running and reading, and then the metal, which is the thing that it's the thing that reflects those ideas, slash the distance. So I was trying to think, all right, how do I make sure that this reflects running? And do all metals or things like that have to reflect some type of running? Because if you do like a marathon or something in a city, they don't typically have to have somebody running on the metal for you to know that it's a metal for the race. You just have the distance, the race, and maybe the if it's like a trail race, you have like trees or some type of nature involved. Or if it's a city, you have a certain maybe the city skyline is there, or maybe a popular bridge in the city is on design. So it isn't always about incorporating a running imagery, whether it's shoes or person running. Those things also tend to like suggest something that isn't fully necessary, but it might seem like it might suggest that those type of people are the people who are intended, are the target audience. So if you have essentially a male, a man on a design, and it's just a man, then a woman might not feel like she's reflected in the experience and might not feel like she can participate. But earlier races, when like women were like I want to say banned, because it wasn't like they did it and then they couldn't do it anymore. But when women weren't allowed to participate in like running a marathon and things like that, a whole nother story about that, they wouldn't consider putting a woman on the medal because only men are participating. So they might have put men on the medal because that's who's participating, and it might reflect one person versus or a certain type versus those who it might be available to. But now in this day and age, we've learned to open things up and make them all feel, make everything more accessible. Like everybody deserves an opportunity to participate in a thing. So in that regard, these designs, I do want it to reflect the reading, but I don't know that, well, I mean, it kind of is obvious on the run review, is like, in the video, I'm clearly like running and reviewing. So do I need to really reflect movement as opposed to books, because I'm more specifically reviewing books as opposed to, or literature as opposed to any other type of media. You know, I'm not like reviewing YouTube videos or reviewing artwork in that regard. I'm reviewing literature. So I think books are important in the imagery, which is why they at least haven't been incorporated in all of these designs. And then, but then trying to figure out how to incorporate something else. So that's what I got for my sketchbook. Really dope drawing there. So always good to have a sketchbook. To use it to just consider ideas. I was thinking about how this would look using AI, and I just opted to move this all through just my own imagination and ideas. This could have gone one way of going straight to AI and trying to prompt it out. I could do these sketches and then make prompts based on these sketches to get the design that I want, just to elevate it. But then I didn't want to see what looked like somewhat final products that would make me not want to work through the kinks to make it really look like how I want it to look like. So I just want to do this from start to finish, from my ideas, my own mind, and see what we come up with. So I don't know what videos they'll start to show up on, but look forward to them. And go get you a sketchbook. I shouldn't have to tell you to like, share, and subscribe, but do that. We out of here. Peace.